Hello and welcome back to the Pink Sofa Hour. I'm your host Pedro. I'm joined here today by Joe of High Street Revival slash the future proprietor of Soul Proprietor, the band. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great. Proprieting things.
That's quite a verb.
I think it's a verb.
I am not sure, but I am willing to give you the benefit of the doubt on this one. How's your day been? It's been getting ready for the big show.
I've been getting ready for the big show, Pink Sofa Hour. Yes, indeed. I've been thinking a lot about why I do what I do and how to answer the questions that you are going to invariably answer.
Wow, that's a very philosophical take. I think that's important that you've done a little bit of self-preparation.
Yeah.
I kind of like that for the fact that generally people do music without really thinking of necessarily why they're doing it.
Mm.
There's a lot of value to be had in reflection sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I think, a nice little side benefit of having people sit down on the sofa for a little conversation. So tell me, why did you call the band High Street Revival? And where are your other members? Where did they go?
I called them up and they didn't want to come, you know. So I've been in bands before, and I had learned how to do singer-songwriter kind of stuff where I would be playing by myself and kind of going back and forth from being in a band and doing the singer-songwriter thing. I didn't want to just have my own name attached to the attached to the music that I was doing. And I also kind of have a vision of the sort of full band instrumentation like you see in the Sioux Falls recording that I have. And so I kind of had this idea to pick a name with the idea that maybe someday it would be a full band, but you know, just kind of as a holding pattern for what I wanted to do. And so I think I actually used one of those band name generator things, but
wow.
It sort of like cycled through a bunch of things. This is like artificial, and you know, a human and artificial intelligence like kind of coming
Finally,
together.
I get to talk about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we can talk about. Okay, so there's going to be about an hour of Chat GPT talk, and
yeah, we're actually going to let him ask all the questions. What are the best interview questions you can ask on a
That's
local
right.
music interview
That's
show?
right. So
I'm just ready to go.
So I think that I was playing around with one of these tools, but the name High Street Revival, when you sort of look it up, there are actually some articles because High Street in British English is kind of like Main Street.
Right.
So just like a Main Street revival, a High Street revival is trying to get people to come to the High Street and pop into the shops or whatever. And I thought that the vision that I have for this, I really like that kind of power pop, the 1970s big star kind of thing, a sort of a revival of this kind of sort of easygoing, sort of big music that you could see in, you know, in the 70s, and that kind of thing. So that was sort of the idea, and it also touches on some of the influences that I have for the project.
Makes sense. It does invoke sort of a, I don't know, bluesy, sort of folky environment. The word revival, I tend to associate it a lot with, like, you know, the sort of jazz, blues, like, and the word street too, almost, because like a lot of these jazz and blues bands like played like right on the street in New Orleans, out to the crowd that's just walking by, and in that sense, I think that it's quite fitting, especially since you've got a harmonica. I feel like
have a harmonica.
Harmonicas are kind of coming back in a big way.
Did they go away?
They lost a little popularity, I think. Not sure why, but things like that happen. What got you into playing music originally? What was like your first instrument?
The piano. It's easy. You mentioned before that people play music without having a reason to do so, and a good reason to do so is if you're 5 years old and you're being taken to piano lessons. That's a good reason to do it, right? And so I was quite young, and my folks, what a gift that they gave me, teaching, you know, taking me to a place to learn how to play the piano. And I've been playing the piano ever since, really. Although not super often, maybe, but it always is something that I've remembered how to do. And then I played guitar in high school and kind of moved on to playing the bass in groups that I was in here in Boulder. And then the other piece of me learning how to play music was listening to records. My dad had a big record collection, the Beatles and Rolling Stones and even AC/DC. And the first time I heard the Sex Pistols was on their LP in the basement of my parents' house.
That's awesome. That's huge too. I think starting off early, learning how to play the piano being, I think, the most agnostic instrument. You can kind of understand music on a very almost logical level, whereas like guitar kind of becomes a little bit more of an exercise in discovering how to arrange things in fourths and thirds.
Sure.
And that can be a little tough, especially with how the human hand works.
Right.
But it's cool that you've stayed with that, because it's a great tool for composition, and it's just a nice mental sort of map to hold when you're thinking about different sorts of theory and all kinds of stuff like that. But obviously, records are very near and dear to my heart. Can't really say that I'm not a fan. And I got into them much later in life, so it's impressive that getting that education early on, I think, tends to impart on people just a lot more appreciation for certain parts of the craft. So
absolutely. There's also an aspect of composition to it. We were actually just talking about this, my girlfriend and I, where listening to something for the first time on, so she's off camera.
She's in the green room.
Yeah, she's providing very important dog management support here.
I'm not doing well.
So
Scooter is, of course, in the studio today. The venerated Scooter will maybe be making some more appearances on air.
He's such a good boy. Anyway, you look at listening to an album on Spotify versus listening to it on vinyl, and even that simple act of having to get up and listen to the first half and listen to the second half and get up and change the album, it really shows how folks in the older days would really be composing things in a way where it's like this side is supposed to be coherent, and of course the second side of Abbey Road and other examples where it really is one coherent message.
I think that's a really good point that you bring up, that I talk about all the time. When you're listening to stuff on Spotify, generally you get to pick whichever song you want, and you can instantly switch when it's like, I don't like the end of this song, I'm just going to skip to the next one. Whereas we don't really have that kind of luxury with records, which means that people compose them a little bit more thoughtfully in terms of having it be a whole flowing kind of composition. And that sort of style of composition hasn't been lost, but it has been, I suppose, a little, it's lost some of its luster to some people in the age of like singles and all the rest of the stuff. So it's cool that you're aware of that. I think that it definitely gives composition in general a very different sort of feel.
Yeah. It's interesting how the medium ends up dictating so much of what you end up doing, because I've read before that on Spotify you are paid per song, and so there's an incentive to make the songs as short as possible. And so you'll see this, especially in rap and that kind of thing, where people will have these 1-minute and 45-second songs, or whatever the lowest denomination is. And this was similar with 45s and stuff, length limitations and everything. So it's fascinating how we sort of keep adapting to. So I don't think that Spotify is necessarily a terrible thing, but it just has changed things in a way that is interesting. And for me, releasing singles, and we release singles with Paper Moonshine too.
Sure.
That is kind of a throwback almost to when people were really into collecting 45s. And I think that there was a time, like even when I was in high school, where if we were to record something, I would be able to give somebody a burned CD. That CD was 72 minutes long or whatever, so it would be, okay, we'll fill the CD with something, because you're going to put it in your CD player. And now it's just release one song. People's attention span can only take one song.
I think that's a very fair point, and it's interesting. You said the context of how it is that you're writing, what it is that you're writing for is important. I think that extends very well into the notion of like, if you're playing a live show, where you're playing in terms of the stage that you're on will change the way that you play. If you're playing in an auditorium to like a room full of people that are sitting down, it's a very different kind of energy than being at an open mic or being at like the Fox and people are just raging, That all kind of ties itself into how it is that people do music,
Mm-hmm.
not just perform it, but compose it and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting conversation in
Sure.
general. In regards to performance, though, you know, what got you specifically into writing and performing music? Because a lot of people, they know how to play music, they don't necessarily drive into that unknown territory of self-exposure, of, you know, having that sort of creative element entering their mind and forcing themselves to make something that you can say, hey, I made this,
Yeah.
please listen to it. What got you into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's all about the communities that I found myself in. When I was in high school, there were people that had bands that came before me where we saw our classmates playing at places. And in downtown Butler, Pennsylvania, there was a place called Apparition Food Court. And it was a pizza restaurant that had this small room that, I mean, it's probably twice the size of this apartment and no larger. And you could throw a show and it might cost you $30 or something to rent the place, and then you would make money back by selling tickets. And that was the environment that I was in. I was in a punk rock band, and
Heck yeah.
it was the kid that sat behind me in homeroom, doctor of pharmacy, Tim Kaler, was the bass player in that band, and then the guitar player that we were playing with was in our homeroom, and we got together in his basement and started something. And so that was really when I was in high school. We were playing, and it was just really around town. I did open mics later, and then joined bands in Boulder. So
Nice. Those kinds of venues have definitely sort of disappeared after, you know, the big event.
right,
The before times were
Sure.
certainly a lot more forgiving in terms of who it is that they wanted to bring on and have
Mhm.
play inside of anywhere, really. But, you know, you mentioned Pennsylvania. Is that where you're from?
yes, indeed, born and raised.
Cool. How was it growing up there?
I liked it. It's hard to know. I mean, I only lived in Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Colorado. So back then, it was hard to know what else was out there. But it's a really nice place, and I think from a music perspective, you know, the punk rock kind of stuff that we were doing back then was really active, and maybe it has something to do with being in the East and having a lot of angst.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
We saw Sunny Day Real Estate the other day, and it's interesting when you go to a show like that here in Colorado. There's a different group of people for sure than say are listening to the jam bands and that kind of thing, which I've also gotten into. Some of the folks that are, I think, in the chat right now have really gotten me into, you know, groups like the Dead and Fish and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, those groups are major players out here in Colorado, which is interesting because, you know, the scene in Colorado is a little bit insulated. We have a lot of distance between us and any other real music venue state.
Mhm.
Whereas if you grew up on the east in Pennsylvania, you could realistically drive up to New York, drive
Mhm.
down to Boston, drive all over the place and hit up a bunch of small towns that are
Mhm.
in bigger venues and do like a little mini tour without, you know, having to drive all the way down to Texas or
Yeah.
Arizona like we have to here. How long have you been in Colorado?
I've been here for about 10 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. You've definitely, I guess, at this point settled in.
I would say so. It's a day at a time, but I think that you get used to the culture, and I have to say, so someone in the chat said shout out to all the East Coast punks. I had to wear my black T-shirt today, you know, in tribute. So
Nice.
thanks, John.
Looks great on the sofa too.
Oh, lovely! It's and what a
Good
comfortable.
contrast.
If people are wondering, it's a comfortable sofa. So you know that we're sort of, you know, I won't lean back, but
You can. It's not gonna look great.
you know.
If it did, that would be a little. That's just showbiz, babe.
That's right. You know, I fall off the back, you know.
A little
But
physical humor.
yeah, in general, I think Colorado is a great place to live, but it's definitely more laid back, and I think generally a good way relative to where I came from before.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of East Coast transplants. I feel like probably the majority of people that have been on the sofa are actually East Coasters that moved to Colorado.
Mhm.
So might have to go do some statistics on that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Mark Flett, who I played in, I played on his album, and Jim Hurley of Sturt's fame,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Augustus fame, and many other fames. You know, his backing band, Mark Flett's backing band, every one of us was from Pennsylvania.
That's
so that
wild.
was
Jim's from Pennsylvania.
Jim's from Pennsylvania, yeah.
We didn't get to see Jim on the sofa because he was out touring with Augustus.
Right.
And Will was out too because he got sick. But is Will from Pennsylvania?
I don't know. I don't know him personally.
We'll have to ask.
All bassists don't know each other, you know.
Right, you guys have to kind of ignore the presence of another bassist. It seems like you've known Sturts for quite some time. Were they friends of yours when you moved to Colorado? Did you meet them through like the open mic scene?
Wow, Evan Dushek is here. I'm going to get distracted by the chat, but
that's
Evan,
what it's there for.
Evan was my first musical collaborator, and I believe he really taught me how to play the guitar. So, gosh, I'm going to get emotional.
Let's get some yeehaws in the chat.
This is great.
Show. He's getting emotional. We need to
Yeah.
yeehaw him up a little.
I know
bit.
this is wonderful. What was the question? Hello, Evan. That's wow.
Did you know Sturts for a long time?
Oh yeah, yes. So, Paper Moonshine, the band that I was in, played at the Laughing Goat. You know, peace be to the Laughing Goat. You know, and if the Laughing Goat is listening, come back. Please have. You told me to talk to the camera, so please have shows again at the Laughing Goat. We really miss it. So when Paper Moonshine had a monthly gig, and on days when the entire band couldn't play, we would do a sort of singer-songwriter kind of thing. And so I would play a set. It wasn't called High Street Revival at the time, but it is now. And then the drummer, Steve Locke, who is he goes by Silver Steven. He would be a great member of this couch or whatever. Member of the couch? That's weird. So Steve would play a set, I would play a set, and then a young guy by the name of Andrew Sturts would play a set. And so that's when I first met Andrew. And along the way, Cortland is in our department and studied environmental engineering, and I actually advised her when she did her master's degree. So I forget if I met Andrew first or Cortland first, but all those connections kind of happened. So I've known them for a long time.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And just for reference, you do have a day job, not just music. You teach environmental engineering.
Yeah, civil and environmental engineering at C. Boulder.
Yeah,
so
that's a cool spot to be. Definitely a lot of fun connections can come out of the music program there, and just knowing all the different components of the university. There's a lot of colorful characters.
Especially considering that a lot of the folks are from the engineering school, including Cortland, and then Taylor Sharp, who is another guy that's in the scene, and Carlo Salvinelli, I believe is his last name. They have a group, and they're both in the Mortensen Center for Global Engineering.
Is that the band name?
That would be a good band name. Let's mark down the band names. I think that there would be some copyright infringement.
I'm gonna call dibs on that one.
Yeah.
So, black and white pictures of signs. Why?
Why not?
Next question.
I think that Instagram was the genesis of Instagram was actually that the person who started it wanted to take pictures of sunny places and send them to people where the weather wasn't as good. And it's square because it's supposed to be like a Polaroid. And so I think of all the socials media that I've used, Instagram has really resonated with me because it has these kind of moments in time where you can sort of, it's just like a little memory that you have. And so I started kind of playing around with different kind of liminal spaces or whatever on Instagram. And that kind of thing really kind of tickles my fancy.
Cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, except the word liminal.
It's like a place that's between being awake and being in a dream.
Okay. I've heard a lot of different definitions for that word, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew it. But I'm glad
There's
that
a vocabulary test on the Pink Sofa Hour. And
it was one of my gotcha questions, you know.
This is gotcha question number 1.
You made it through.
How many gotcha questions will there be?
Well, black and white pictures of signs I felt like was a good one. It wasn't really a gotcha. It's just like a, hey, surprise, I've seen how many black and white pictures you've taken of signs. Personally, I really like it. I think that it's an interesting sort of distraction almost from like regular content where people are like, you know, talking about their lives or talking about some accomplishment or something like that. It's like, no, here's just a black and white picture of a sign that is very ordinary. It kind of takes it into like a weird sort of context, like you said, like Polaroid.
Well, I can give you an exclusive, and I don't know if you have like you should have a sound effect for exclusives, you know, da da da.
I mean, I do have sound effects.
Wow, that's. Have you ever played a sound effect on the Pink Sofa Hour?
Let's see. Here's applause.
Wow.
We've got the applause rolling.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, the dog. Scooter really likes applause. He really likes applause. So my exclusive is that I have a Finsta, a secret fake Instagram account called That Strip Mall. And That Strip Mall is only pictures of strip malls, you know, abandoned barns, hallways, parking lots.
You must not really try to you must not really advertise this, because I love those kinds of Instagram accounts, the themed ones.
No one knows.
They're really fun.
Well, so no one knows that it's me.
I have a secret
until this very moment. Now you know that that's me. So that's an exclusive for you. But
I'm gonna have to give you a follow.
Yeah, please do. And to your point about the themed Instagrams, it's really interesting how algorithms rule our lives. They pick what you get to see and that kind of thing. And on a regular Instagram account, it's just all sorts of stuff. If you start a new one and you only follow people that take pictures of old shopping malls and that kind of thing, it's amazing the types of things that you see. There's this woman in Canada, House Pictures by Laura. I'll give her a shout out.
Are you out here, Laura?
So and you know, it's just a delightful thing, and it's because I don't think that there's, not to say that there's irony associated with it, but it is literally what it seems like. And there's kind of a beauty in the world that we live in about the kind of maybe mundane, you know, just like what you see on the street when you're walking around.
It is actually one of my favorite things to notice, is just the simplicity of the mundane. There's like a German word for it, isn't there?
Oh, I don't actually know that one. You got me, you know.
I don't actually know it either, but I'm sure the Germans have a word for it.
Sure.
I'm almost certain. So I've heard, there's a rumor going around that you can hit notes that the human hearing range cannot actually hear. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you in advance to try to keep your singing in the range of human hearing so that we don't have to.
If the dog sort of gets up, you'll know that it's...
Yeah, you're doing something. On that note, I am going to go ahead and invite you to start a song if you'd like. Do you want to have a chat about it first?
Sure. So the first song that I'm going to do, I guess maybe in a historical progression, so to say. This is a song that I wrote while I was in Paper Moonshine, and I've kept playing it by myself. And it is a blues that is, we've always had fun with it, related to just kind of playing it in different styles, playing it at different speeds, because the chord structure is so simple. You can really have some fun with it. It's about a hypothetical person, as many of my songs are, called, the guy's name is Dean, my uncle, who I don't have because he doesn't exist. Uncle Dean's Blues.
Cool. Let's hear it. By the way, all the questions were also hypothetical.
This whole thing is hypothetical. Are we even here, you know, is the question.
Imaginary.
Jail changes, crooks the same. Got so tangled, had to take a different name. Curtains closed, the lights turned out. I'm waiting for the man that they told me about. Whoa, take my troubles down to Dean. After he's done, I'll make sure you're living clean. Take him to Dean. After he's done, to make sure you're living clean. Dean listens, Dean cares. All those other men are blowing hot air. He's a fixer, he's the man. He's got a screw loose, but he holds the plan. Whoa, and take my troubles down to Dean. After he's done, I'll make sure you're living clean. Take my troubles and take 'em down, take 'em down. After he's done, you'll make sure you're living clean.
I had the applause ready to go for this one. Very nice, Joe. Thank you so much for playing that for us.
You're welcome.
And that's not even your only hypothetical song. You've got more.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, we all have these things that we imagine, and sometimes it's nice to kind of put that to tape, you know.
Sure. In fact, it's almost kind of like you could envision everything being almost a story that you're telling yourself about stuff that's happening around you all the time.
That's correct. And, you know, one wonders whether we're even here, right? You know,
this is a really philosophical.
I mean, if you think about it, because the perception of reality is equivalent to what would be like if your brain was in a vat,
sure,
sort of with stimulus coming in.
It's like a waking dream kind of thing.
I would think so. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. What a lighthearted episode. Oh man. So who's Ponyo?
My cat. My lovely cat. And Ponyo likes to headbutt Lauren and do all sorts of other crazy things. I've had her ever since I've lived in Boulder.
Headbutting does tend to be a sign of affection from cats.
I would hope so. And then I learned to headbutt others, and maybe that's not so good.
Yeah, you have to kind of do it a little bit softer when you're like a human being. But, you know, cats have the advantage of being small and lightweight.
She's very small, too. Yeah. And very fluffy, so...
I saw some pictures. In fact, the very first picture you posted on your personal Instagram was of Ponyo.
Yeah, I remember.
Fun facts, everyone.
I know. Yeah, I remember when I first learned about Instagram, and it was a colleague of ours that we had. And actually, here's a story for you. Sanitas Brewing, shout out to Sanitas, a friend of Pink Sofa Hour, I would hope.
Oh, absolutely. Got a Sanitas sweater right over there somewhere.
I had, when I moved to Boulder...
I'm wearing a Sanitas hat.
That's great. I don't know if people see that in the...
Sponsored.
When I moved to Boulder, I wasn't playing music, and I went to... And part of it was just, you know, trying to kind of spin out my research group and getting tenure and all that kind of stuff. I was at a happy hour at Sanitas with a bunch of hydrologists. There's a water resources happy hour and then I kind of help organize it from time to time. And, you know, I was there and talking about the Colorado River and other things. And there was a guy by the name of Jim Herlihy. This is not a bit, it's a true story. So Jim was there. That was the first time I ever met Jim. He was hosting an open mic, and luckily it was a day that there weren't that many people there. So I kind of walk up after having a few beers and I say, hey, you know, is there a spot? You know, I used to do this back when I was in college. And I didn't really remember anything of what I was doing. I could barely play at that point, but I got through it, and I kind of said to myself that would be a good thing for me to do to blow off steam, and so I just kept going to open mics, and that's kind of how I got back into the music scene. Jim was always so welcoming, and you know, and then even after the pandemic, like you come along, and I met you, and it's been very nice to know you and to be a part of this and everything.
Thank you, Joe. Now you're making me emotional. We've, it's funny. Me and Jim have crossed paths many times before we finally became friends. Mm-hmm. And he used to he does run the open mic at Vision Quest right now. But I used to run the open mic at Vision Quest. He used to run the open mic at Sanitas, and now I run the open mic at Sanitas. It's like we just switched places.
That's amazing.
It's absolutely bizarre. I love it. Yeah, but great guy, and also very welcoming. I think that when I got my start doing open mics out here, his was one of the first ones that I went to, but it was at Twisted Pine. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're doing it anymore, but
Mm.
yeah, maybe they should.
Shout out, you know.
Camera. Yeah. It's important, open mics. I
Yeah.
think that they foster a lot of engagement with the community, allow
Mhm.
musicians to meet each other in really casual circumstances, while also being able to show off a little bit if you
Mhm.
feel like it, or blow off some steam.
That's right.
It all depends. So you like to travel a lot.
I've traveled a lot for work for sure, and that's one of the things that's nice with academic conferences and stuff. You get to see some places.
Yeah. What are some of the favorite places that you've been to, or any fun stories perhaps that you have?
Yeah, Lauren and I went to a wedding in New Hampshire a couple of months ago, and we were trying to look for a place to eat on the road, and people were like searching for things on their phones in the highway, and then her sister's boyfriend says, "Hey, do you want to go to an open mic?" It wasn't her sister's boyfriend. It was someone in the car. Now I'm getting flustered. Do you want to go to an open mic here in the middle of like rural New Hampshire? And so I walk in, and it was, there was just a small kind of community of people, and older guy that was hosting it. And, I walk up and I kind of hammed it up a little bit, and I say, like, I'm coming from Colorado. And then he kind of turns his body to me, and he says, like, "You're from Colorado. Tell me all about the far-off land of Colorado." And
Just crushing this small town open mic.
oh, it was amazing. It was so cool. Oh, see, now Elizabeth's in the chat, and I'm sorry, I can't. And so it's
Save your questions for the last.
the first. So basically, when you forget one person's name, then you start to forget other people's names, and now it's just like everything is just sort of false memories in your head. So I don't remember the name of the guy who hosted the open mic, but I'll tell you that he hosts the open mic at Covered Bridge Farm to Table in New Hampshire.
Wow.
And so if you can maybe look up his name, we could give him a shout out. I don't know. This is what you have a manager for, right?
Sure.
Anyway, so he so that was such a cool experience, and I haven't really had a chance to play music, in far-flung places, but I would love to do it some more.
It's interesting, I take it that you haven't done any sort of touring and stuff with Paper Moonshine or anything like that.
No.
But you've been playing some shows in general
Mhm.
with these bands. And,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nothing too recent because Paper Moonshine kind of not happening right now.
Yeah, Paper Moonshine is on hiatus. Ben Livna, who was the guitar player in the band, is on sabbatical in Israel, and
Cool.
so he is. We're going to be doing something in November. We'll play at the College of Engineering tailgate for football season, and this is another kind of cool thing. Where we've actually gotten to play some shows like associated with the university, which has been a lot of fun.
That's wacky. I love that.
So yeah, Ben will be back actually in a couple of months, and so we'll probably try to get some things going with him again. And I would say that Paper Moonshine might return, but
Sure.
we'll see. That's a bit of a radio tease,
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
We played at the Conifer Elevation Celebration a number of times, which was fun, and then a bunch of places around Boulder and that kind of thing.
Nice. Any favorite stories from playing shows, whether it be Paper Moonshine or not? Wacky stories from the
That's
stage.
a good question. I think that it's been really gratifying to play longer shows, sort of more often. Back in the Laughing Goat days, we would play 3 hours. We do that once a month, and so being able to kind of settle in and really get your groove was really nice. It's really interesting the different types of venues that you play. There's a sort of a restaurant opening or something. I played one time by myself at an event at New. Okay, so there's New Terrain and New Image, and we've played it. See, now I'm really going to start to miss all these names, but I believe it was a New Image that I played, and the light rail was coming to town. This is like speaking of revival and that kind of thing, this is the kind of thing that you would do in like the year 1905. You know, like the train is coming to town, and let's have a party. You know, so that was the gig that I played.
Like
they had this whole kind of
happy hour as the train rolls by.
That's right. Yeah. So that was cool. I played in a shopping mall when I was in high school, and they kept telling us to turn it down because we were literally in the middle of a bonton. I don't even know if bonton exists anymore.
I'm not even sure what bonton is.
Yeah,
but that sounds like a heck of an experience.
Yeah, it's really fun to kind of set up your stuff and just see what happens, you know.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Just getting out there, having experiences, getting on bonton, getting on sofas. You know,
that's right.
It's all part of the game. You know, we have only heard one song so far.
That's it. Yeah.
We're feeling a little teased, perhaps.
Well, I have this wonderful sake that you've given me. I still have a little bit left. So.
It's water, everyone.
All right. Well,
at your leisure, if you'd like to start another one, we can chat some more.
Yeah, let's do it. Cool. So this song is
beautiful guitar, by the way.
Thank you. This is actually Lauren's guitar, and she was kind enough to let me play it here. So we'll try not to scratch it up too much during the show.
It's got a pick guard. You should be all right.
That's right. Yeah. And did we take the plastic off?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally.
Good. That's, I'm glad that there's no. The plastic isn't on the couch anymore. So, that's good.
Yeah.
So this is the High Street Revival, the second single on the Spotify account or the Deezer account. Deezer, very popular in France, apparently. You know, when you upload your music, you upload it to all these services, and so we always tell people to listen to us on Deezer, and I think a couple people probably have in Ukraine or something like that.
Cool sounding service. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. Check us out on Deezer, everybody. And the second song on Deezer is a song by the name of Ben Jones. And speaking of when I got my start playing singer-songwriter stuff, this is something that I played back at the First in State College when they had their open mic when I was in college. And so it's actually a song that I wrote some time ago, but we just finally recorded it. And Ben Livna actually plays slide guitar on the recording, and I think he played it before the stream started. Now,
here comes the harmonica.
I'm told that this is the first harmonica that's been on this show. So
first harmonica on the show.
I'm very excited about that. But when I started playing an acoustic guitar, I started on electric, when I was in the punk band, obviously. And when I started playing acoustic, I really got into Bob Dylan when I was in college. Yeah. And, just having this device, which will invariably sort of fall down, I know, as I'm playing. So
it happens.
We'll see. And I'll try not to curse when that happens, but we'll see.
It doesn't. The FCC doesn't care here. It's YouTube.
Ben Jones was in a bar tonight, drinking away what his life could have been. As the bartender looked down to pick him up, he wondered what kind of web he was tangled in. Ben quit his job today, putting all his thoughts down on a slip. Handing it to the secretary, he threw down his hat, wondered how he could save his sinking ship. Ben Jones, what's the problem now? And how do you think it's gonna end? I was riding along the road, and I thought you needed something. I'll be there if you need a friend. He's in a vehicle, making his way out to the Old West. Sitting around a campfire, he'll use the papers from his old life for fuel. Ben Jones, what's the problem now? And how do you think it's gonna end? I was riding along the road and I saw you needed something. I'll be there if you need a friend. Got a letter from Ben Jones yesterday. He said he's doing fine, but the pickings are slim. If the world makes you a number and you can't see beyond yourself, maybe all of us should do like him. Ben Jones, what's the problem now? And how do you think it's gonna end? I was riding along the road, saw you needed something. I'll be there if you need a friend. I'll be there if you need a friend. Ben Jones, what's the problem now? And how do you think it's gonna end? I was riding along the road and I saw you needed something. I'll be there if you need a friend.
Congratulations, Joe. You've passed the scooter exam. I think he was doing a little howling over there.
Wonderful.
It's good stuff.
Speaking of, this is like this is your life, I swear. So Dr. Matt Lohr was around back when that song was written, back when I was at Penn State University. We went to undergrad together, and he is a very accomplished acapella-ist. Acapella, the best music is with no instruments at all, or so he says. So, hello, Matt.
That's quite an opinion. That's awesome, though. I have heard that song before, but I never had heard it with the harmonica. I like it a lot. I think it adds a little bit of that. I guess it's supposed to be taking the place of the slide guitar a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And Scooter likes it a lot too.
Wonderful. Well, that's the biggest audience,
If you can get Scooter to sing, you automatically you'll get a call from Capitol soon. Don't worry. So that song's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
How was your process in writing it? I wanted to touch upon this a little bit earlier with this whole imaginative, hypothetical state of mind, being dreamlike, sort of liminal thing that we were getting into. But process is a big part of how it is that people create.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're inspired by just their own imaginations. Sometimes it's situations in their life, or perhaps things that you witness. So what does your process look like?
Yeah, John Mayer said that if you could write a song about a glass of water and then impart to that sort of small space something really large, so like you can start with a glass of water and then you end up having the world. That's what he said anyway. And he says that it's easier actually to do that than to try to start with the world, and think that you're going to write sort of the world's greatest love song or something like that. And I think that for me, it's just these different kind of moments that happen, or a feeling that you have, and I actually kind of think that it all sort of comes to me at once, so it's both sort of the chords and the melody and everything kind of all sort of just comes, not necessarily that you could say that you have a particular chord progression and that's what you want to end up doing. But unfortunately, when you do things that way, it means that there can be long periods of a drought as well. So I certainly haven't been writing much lately, and I think that that's okay. There's a lot of stuff that I've written over the years that I haven't recorded, and so I'm kind of starting there and then kind of seeing what happens.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, to the members of the audience right now, if you have any questions for Joe, we do have the chat on screen, and we can read it. So if anybody has any sort of fun little gotcha questions or anything like that that you'd like Joe to address on air, you're more than welcome to fire those off, but definitely we also appreciate a good yeehaw. Up to you guys. So how long have you had a beard?
I think it's been a few years now. I think it was kind of a pandemic thing in some respects, but I've really enjoyed it. Of course, going gray is not so fun, but I noticed that for you, I think
right.
it's yeah.
Got a little chin gray.
That's right. Well, then now it's
a good
it's
look.
just like it's kind of a flood of gray, you know.
It's gotten quite distinct in the last couple months. I think just trying to start an interview show tends to stress you out.
Well, and you've done so much.
And yet barely anything at all.
But isn't that always the way that it is? I think
Yeah.
that it's that life is what happens when you're making other plans or something, you know. I think that, and I've certainly thought that with my career, you know, there's times when I've thought, oh, I just got here, I don't know what I'm doing, and then I sit back and I realize that I've been teaching, say, for 10 years and playing music for off and on for a decent amount of time now. So
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, you have some wins and some successes along the way.
It feels that way, definitely. I mean, these last 2 months have felt like they've been a year, and it's only been 8 episodes. But an episode every week is quite a pace. But here I am. We do have approximately 12 minutes left.
Okay.
So I think that is enough time for a couple more songs
Okay, cool.
and a couple of questions.
Wonderful.
Let's
Well, I know that these folks that are on the call are people who have questions.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, so
Come on, then.
I have to change my harmonica, so you have, you know, 90 seconds.
Right. You could ask us questions about Scooter as well. He's here in the studio, and we can have a live translator addressing that
That's
for us.
wonderful. He's really just having a good time.
He's always having a good time.
Here's something. I mean, do you play harmonica?
You know, I've never played harmonica.
Oh yeah.
I've put one up to my face and blown into it, but never have I ever considered myself like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
The Bob Dylan had a. Of course, I can sort of find an opportunity to talk about rock and roll history with you, completely apropos of nothing. But Bob Dylan played.
Hey, this is your time. You can use it however you like.
Bob Dylan played on the Letterman show one time, and he was playing with members of Dire Straits, and it was so cool. It was like had a bit of a new wave or a punk kind of feel. This was when Infidels came out, and he was on Letterman, and they did a couple of songs. They had skinny ties. It's so cool, and you can find it on YouTube. But he played the wrong harmonica on national TV.
Ooh.
He puts it up to his mouth, and you
Wrong
can tell
key.
it's wrong. And then like a roadie comes out and like gives him the right harmonica, and then he finishes the solo. So I'm very scared of that happening here, but you know, it's.
Hopefully you've done your preparation, and
Hopefully.
you know, worst case scenario, we've got a roadie or two in here.
That's
that
right.
can help you
Yeah.
out.
Well, I've forgotten people's names, and you know, put people that weren't in a particular place in a particular place. So it's just been really a barrel of monkeys. But
It's the way of the road, but I don't know if anybody's a Trailer Park Boys fan, but
that's one that I'm not familiar with.
that's okay.
That's the guy
for
with the
Trailer
glasses,
Park
right?
fans, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, always.
All right, so you have a few more minutes to ask your questions, but first I will play the first single on the High Street Revival page. This is not about a person who doesn't exist. This is about a place that I've never been to, called Sioux Falls.
Cool. Let's get it.
First train at the station got there late. I'm stranded at the terminal. I dropped my case. Stopped at the parlor, got mobbed at the cafe. People always asking me to tell them the way. And isn't it exciting? Getting what you want feels too enticing. Don't you want to start your trip to Sioux Falls? I've never been to South Dakota before. You'll have to tell me how it is. Tumbleweeds outside of Wall Drug. For a nickel you can buy a shrug. And isn't it exciting? Getting what you want feels too enticing. Don't you wanna start your trip to Sioux Falls?
Seems as though Scooter really likes that one.
Scooter's quite in key, I would say. So
incredibly, he has musical talent, and it's a little intimidating sometimes. Even he can get up there. He's got quite a falsetto. Thank you for playing that. That's actually so far out of the three my favorite. I like the sort of contrast between like the parts that are a little more high energy and the parts that are a little bit more just like conversative and chilling. I appreciate good dynamic range. It's important. Scooter does too. By the way, he'll send you an invoice for that.
Wonderful. Yeah, we will. Hopefully, I retain the royalties.
It's per howl, so and 3%. But yeah, that's a really nice track, and I believe that this last one has not been released yet.
This is an exclusive. This is a second exclusive, I would say. So very exciting.
Oh yeah, the first song is not currently like out, right?
Oh well, I mean the exclusive was my Instagram account, you know.
Oh, I see.
Which we will not name again. So if people, you'll have to rewind the tape for that one. But
got some more viewing hours on there.
That's right. No, yeah. So the first one, yeah, that first song, you know, who knows what we'll do with that one someday. But this one is another one actually that is from the college days, back when I was with Dr. Lore and the other Dr. Lore and other folks. It's actually based on a Kurt Vonnegut. It's a vignette in the book
Slaughterhouse-Five?
Breakfast of Champions. And you know there were these Kilgore Trout novels, you know, these little kind of vignettes, and this kind of comes full circle to the conversation that we've been having, because it kind of has to do with a character who realizes that he's the only one that was sort of written by the author in the story.
Ooh, a little fourth wall breakage.
And so he's kind of coming to terms with that. And so the name of the song is from that name of that hypothetical novel.
And what is the name of the song?
Now It Can Be Told.
Now It Can Be Told. Very cool. You got the harmonica in tune?
I got it in tune. So I kind of planned this. It's kind of, sort of. So
sensible.
We'll see what happens.
Well, here we go. Live debut. Now It Can Be Told.
See the mountains fading away. The world is a riddle with a new one every day. when you're waking from a dream. The world that you see isn't truly what it seems. In the process of growing old, it's safe to say that now it can be told. People getting on your nerves. These problems come up at every curve. You seem like you're the only one with a thinking mind. I think I can tell you that you are one of a kind. In the process of growing old, it's safe to say that now it can be told. In the process of belief, every once in a while we get some relief.
Gorgeous. You'll love to see it. That was cool. I liked the harmonica playing this big triumphant solo in the middle of it. I think that fits pretty well.
Yeah, I think that it's a good kind of encapsulation of sort of how my taste or preferences have kind of changed, because the first time that I made a demo of that, when I was very young, it was kind of more of a punk rock kind of thing. I always liked the kind of fast strumming, and then, like now having been in Boulder for 10 years, when I instrumented the song, I'm like, well, there's going to be like long guitar solos and kind of almost a jam band kind of feel.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a nice microcosm of how I've developed over the years.
Yeah, people like the fast strumming out here in Boulder. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
With these last couple minutes, I always like to ask, where do you see High Street going from here? Do you want to acquire some more members again? Do you want to turn it more into like a solo project? Are you planning any big releases?
Yeah, well, so I have I'm working on a recording of that. A drummer, a very nice drummer by the name of Mikey Lasso Panara. I've never said his name out loud, but he's Mikey Lassa on Instagram, and he did the drumming on this secret version of the song that hasn't been finished yet. And so it is the kind of big instrumentation, not unlike Sioux Falls. And I'll be working on that and releasing it in the spring. So I just announced that, which is really exciting. I'm playing a show with. I'm playing a show. Look at Matt. Matt, you're making me. What a wonderful thing.
He does sound awesome, doesn't he?
So that's the one song that's coming out, and then I'm playing a show at the Gold Hill General Store with.
Ooh, I love that spot.
Yeah, so with Steve from Paper Moonshine, who goes by the moniker Silver Steven, and so Silver Steven and I will be playing on March 4th up in Gold Hill. And then I have the open mics that I do at Wild Provisions.
Yep.
The next one is on March 12th, and that's the second Sunday of every month. And so those are the kind of things that I'm up to. Related to what's going to happen with the group, time will tell. I think that the biggest thing for me, and a lot of people who do this singer-songwriter thing know that it's all about writing. It's all about getting material kind of down.
Yep.
And I think that I would really like to be able to have a nice set of material, to bring to a band and to bring to people to play with me. But, stay tuned. I would love to do it, and we've got a lot of time, so maybe we could even do something together someday. So
anytime, Joe. It'd be my pleasure. It'd be my honor. And with that, I think no more audience questions, and I would like to thank you personally for coming on the show. It's been a really good time.
Yeah.
Got a lot of philosophical, hypothetical, liminal stuff out, and that's always very near and dear to my heart as a secret philosophy major.
Oh boy, we have all sorts of exclusives today.
And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign it off. It's been a pleasure. Next week, we are done with Folky February. And that was totally by accident, but we've got the Nova Kicks coming on. Fantastic band. Cannot wait to see what they have in store for us. And yeah, with that, see you later, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening.